Hello everybody, welcome back to Valley of the Mist Block of the Month. I'm Adriane Ritter.
And I'm Shelley McNeely.
We're here with the May 2022 Block of the Month. So, this block, if you did our Block of the Month last year, might look a little bit familiar. We made, did we make a big one of these?
I think we made a big one.
Yeah, okay. But now, we're making a bunch of little ones. So they're just spinning stars. And this block is pretty darn simple.
Yep.
But you do need to use a 1/4 inch seam because we haven't really given a lot extra.
But there is some.
Yeah. Okay. So Shelley's going to go over the fabrics.
Okay, so we're going to need our focus fabric, and the Quilt Guild is using this particular one this year. If you're not doing it for the exchange, you can use whatever you want for a focus. And then we need a white, or like this, and contrasting, coordinating fabrics. And we are saying between 1 and 3, and that is just up to your design.
But actually, you could use more. It doesn't really matter.
Right.
I mean, I don't know if you have a lot of scraps yet this year, but you definitely use scrap pieces.
Right.
So, and technically, Shelley's going to tell you the fabric needs. You could use 9 different colors.
Yeah.
Because one of them has to be the focus fabric.
Right.
Okay, so Shelley, tell us what size and what they need.
Okay, so we need white, and of that we need 16 3 and 5/8 inch squares. And of the focus and coordinating, we need 10 rectangles. And these, you figure out the color, how many of each you need, but total of 10. And they need to be approximately 1 3/4 by 3 1/2. And don't go wider than 2 inches, otherwise your stars will be squatty.
Yeah. Well, they'll be fat.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the 3 1/2 is more the length of the point.
But the width.
The width, you don't want it too wide.
Right.
Because I just like how delicate they look this way. Okay, so like I said, it's a very easy block. And the first thing you need to do is take the fabrics that you choose for your star points, and you need to aim them right sides up in a stack. And I would stack them, you can have as many stacks as you want, but I would stack them by the size. So as you can see, like I have a piece of blue that's different, so I'm going to cut it separate. But the other ones are pretty much the same. And then, so like when we do, I think we've done this already this year, but the direction you make this cut kind of decides the direction that the star will rotate or spin or look. So I did this one, which for most people would be the normal cut, going from the bottom right to the top left diagonally. If you want them to spin the other way and you only are good at cutting with your right hand, you could flip them over and cut them wrong side up and do that way, and then you would get the other direction. But I can cut with both hands, so I'm actually going to cut these. I'm going to cut these the other direction, but I'm going to go from the bottom left to the top right. And you just want to make sure you're getting both. So you can do it freehand, or you can do it with a ruler. You just want to get kind of on both diagonals. Oh, I forgot I'm doing it with the other hand. So then we're going to make all, oops, get back in place, you. And we're going to make all these cuts. They're all kind of going to come out a little different size. So you are going to work on these individually. So I'm just going to go through and keep, and I'll make the rest of the cuts. But the next step,
and of course the main thing is cut them all the same.
Yeah, cut them all with the same, whichever bottom corner you're in, start in the same bottom corner. So the next step is we want you to, and I'm not going to take and lay out my entire block, but we want you to take a design board that you have. It could be a cutting mat or something that you can work on that's big enough to hold all of the blocks. But we want you to take and lay it out, and then and then just look at how the pieces look to you, and you're going to put the inner 4 blocks, take a triangle in each corner. So there'll be 2 triangles on those. And the outer 12 blocks just have a triangle in one corner. And you want to sample how you want to place the fabric. And there's not really any right or wrong. You know, make sure you put the 90-degree angle in the 90-degree. That's the wrong corner, but
Remember, you cut them the other direction, so it's going to
I
look a little
did. No,
different.
that's the right corner. That's
Yeah.
the right corner. It's just going the other way, so that's throwing me. So I'm going to keep laying those on there and just looking at how I want it to look. And I'm going to do that for all of the 16. And so when they have a single triangle on them, they all go into, you're going to end up making 4 patches. I think that's the way we did it, right?
Right.
And so you want to make a star with each of those. And then the ones that have the 2 triangles are going to make a separate star in the center. So definitely sample how you want that to look. And then clip each of these to the corner where you have it so you can remember. And I would take a photo of it. So that's the easiest way, because you're going to get them all mixed up. And if you love your design, you're never going to remember it again without some remember. Then the next step is we're going to put these triangles on the corners. And this is kind of a method we've been using this year and last year, where we take and we pull this piece for this block back a 1/2 inch on both sides, and then cut off. I'm not even looking at it, but you know, this might be a 1/2 inch, it might not be. And then you're going to lay a ruler on that piece of the white. I'm covering up the focus because I don't, or my piece I'm adding on, and I'm going to just cut off this corner and then attach this, fold it down, attach it to it, and that becomes the exact placement for that triangle. I know for some people they're probably like a 1/2 inch. Why a 1/2 inch? You're cutting. You're not marking the seam line. You're cutting the measuring up line. So it's only gonna really go down another half. This one will go down just a 1/4 inch,
Right.
even though you pulled it back a half. Then they're going to press all of these.
Well, did you say how they should line it up when they sew it?
Oh, okay. No, I didn't. Okay, so if I have this cut off, there's on each of these triangles there's a skinny corner, a real skinny pointy corner, and then the more chunky point. You don't want to start at this skinny end. I mean, your machine will probably eat it up. just for ease, you want to start at the other end, and you're going to set it so the triangle sticks up about a 1/4 inch past the end. But basically, it's going to be where, right at this point right here, that should be where your needle hits if you have it set on a 1/4 inch seam.
Right.
So it's roughly a 1/4 inch over. And it's a 1/4 inch. It's not, I mean, it's not that this is sticking up a 1/4 inch, it's that this is sticking over a 1/4 inch.
Right.
If the point is right, it's sometimes the same thing.
Right.
Okay, so you're going to sew those on. Make sure when you sew them on, you don't, I think we had this issue before, that you're sewing on the edge, and you're going to come out and not like pull this triangle down to follow along the edge of the block.
Just remember that this piece isn't here anymore.
Right, yeah. So you're sewing here, and the 1/4 inch, you're going to come out, you should come out between this point and the background fabric, okay? So then I would say press, most likely you're going to press to the triangle.
I'm pretty sure that's what it
your
was.
background is going to be your white fabric, so that's going to be the dark. And we're going to do all of these. So you're going to sew on 20 of these points. 12 of them just have one corner, and 4 of them have 2 corners. And we'll be back. All right, so we have our 16 sub blocks with their little corners on them, and we have them up here to see how we plan on arranging them. hopefully that's how they come out at the end.
I know.
Okay.
I had to redo my inner ones because I thought, uh-oh, I laid those out wrong. So I had these in the opposite corners. So, yeah. I noticed it when I started putting it together.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. And you couldn't fix it. Okay.
Yeah.
By just changing.
Yeah,
where they
because I
sat.
already started sewing on
Okay.
second piece.
So the next step that we have to do is on each of these pieces, because you press them out to the corner you added on, are going to have these little flag pieces. And so what we need you to do, you're going to take a ruler, and it really doesn't matter what size ruler, because you just need to be able to get at those corners. And you really, I only want you to take off the excess fabric from those corners. So on this one, it does look like I placed it outside a little bit. And while I'm doing it, I'm going to look and make sure the block needs to still be at least 3.5 inches square. So as long as I'm over 3.5 inches, I can trim that extra bit off there. And I can trim the extra bit off this corner. And you're going to do that on each of them. And on the ones that have the double corner, just do one corner first. I mean, I would look at it first. Let me grab one of those and make sure that it still looks like it's at least 3.5. I guess if I start with that. So if I look at it, yeah, I'm over 3.5. I'm close to 3 5/8 is what we started with. It's kind of what I'm expecting. So I can trim off this corner and then trim off the other. So once you have all those trimmed, and it does help if you have like a wool pressing mat or a big cutting board that you can carry with you to keep them in order.
Yeah.
Then we want you to start sewing the rows together. And it really doesn't matter whether you go horizontal or vertical. It's kind of the same thing if you turn it. So just sew rows together.
So how we did it, or did we do
Oh, no, we didn't. You're right. What we want you to do is to make 4 of these 4-patch blocks. And, you know, it really doesn't matter. You could do it either way. But if you do the 4-patch blocks, it's easier not to make a mistake on getting them pieced right so they come together. Yeah, so definitely I would do that. So first you're going to sew like 2 and 2 and press them like in mine it's easy because I have these blues in every block. So if I always think, oh, I'm going to press towards that blue, then I know my seams will nest and I can have a nice, soft, easy center. So sew those 4 patches.
Yeah.
And then when you're done with that, we're just going to do the same thing as those 4 patches and sew those 4 together. And you're going to end up with your finished block. I don't think that there was anything from sewing on. Sometimes we think of something while we're sewing on the piece, but mine, I mean, other than Shelley's, where she had she put them on the wrong side for the design she looked. They weren't sewn wrong. Right. They were just in the place, but she didn't like them. Otherwise, yeah, so it should be pretty straightforward, and we should be back with our finished blocks. All right, so we're back earlier than we said. Because, if you guys have been sewing with us for the last few years, we remember things after we stop. And the one thing we remembered, and Shelley remembered this, was when you're sewing these 4 patches together, you want to kind of preserve the stars because the blocks are a little bit oversized. And so the stars could get really small. Shelley, see on your original block, and I do too, I have one that's smaller than the
other one
others.
might still, but.
Yeah. But, so the way to do that is when you're sewing the 2 pieces together, start from the corner with the added point on it, okay? Sew from that out so that the extra of the block is falling to the background piece, okay? So now that you have your 4 patches together, keeping in mind that these original pieces were 3 5/8, and they really only need to be 3.5 to make it a 12.5 inch finish, 12.5 inch block that we need. So we gave you an extra 1/8 of an inch for fat seams. Let's say that. Okay.
Yeah.
So and when you trimmed down these extra part that you added on, you were making them all the same size, and that's fine. You don't have to. But when you put the pieces together, like this one, it's hard to see, but you can bet Shelly actually has one that's like that, and I don't have many because some of them, like Shelly, they fall to the outside. And it doesn't matter. But if on this inner edge, you can see this top seam here, the edge of this block sticks out from this one. So I'm going to trim that so I have a straight edge. Okay, that's the only other trimming you need to do at this point before we come back with our finished block. And then, like,
And again, are we sewing from the center of the center star too?
yes, I thought you were going to tell them that.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So that was one of Shelly's things that she wanted to make sure you remembered was from here, when you get to this point, match up, put this over on top and sew from this edge down.
Just like you did before.
Right. And then when you match the centers at the final seam, just match the centers. Right. You should be good. Okay, so we'll be back with our finished blocks. Okay. All right, so we're back here with our finished blocks. I didn't really have any issues with mine. When I went to do the final trimming, I had maybe an 1/8 of an inch extra around it. Not a lot.
Close to 1/4 on a couple of sides, but yeah.
Oh, I mean, if I put it to one side, I could have had 1/4 inch, but I kind of did it in the center. So I'm really pleased with this block. I love the way it looks. I just wanted to share with you. So Shelly and I, when we are designing the blocks for the year, we do test blocks and we try different looks and kind of come up with our final look. And so I wanted to show you one of the test blocks that we did for this because this is a great block for block of the month when it's a standalone block. But my original test block, I actually had you doing a lot more corners. Now, as you can see, there were some issues that I kind of lost almost the corner because in this one we were starting with a 3 3/4 inch block, which was way too big. So you wouldn't have this much trouble. But if you decide that you want to make a quilt with these blocks and you put 2 corners on every block, and that was what this was, then this extra star you get in the middle will end up repeating on every block. And so just something to think about in case you want to maybe try this block on a whole quilt. They do come up looking pretty delicate. I love that. It's a very nice looking quilt. All right, so we will see you next month. Don't forget your blocks. This May block is not due until after the summer. So you don't have to rush and do it. You can even make a whole quilt over the summer.
Okay.
So, see you next month.